Thursday. This video is coming to you live. My name is Daniel McCrane with McCrane Associates, and small business owners choose to work with us to increase their profitability, expand their scalability, and solidify their legacy. And we guarantee our work in those areas. There are other firms out there who say they work in those areas, they offer no guarantees. Well, we do. Hey, today let's talk about what happens when the transition of the business takes place. So everything is all done, everything's been fine, it's gone great. Buyer and seller, you're both happy, everything is going to transition. Maybe it's still a little bit in the future, maybe it's already taken place. Here's something that you need to think about. Hopefully, you've got some time still to think about this before the actual transition actually occurs. And what I want you to think about is what happens to the employees of the business after the transaction occurs. This is an area where honestly, I see a lot of acquisitions fall down and things just fall apart afterwards. This is probably the most crucial thing to the success of the business after the transaction has already occurred. Okay, lots of opportunities for things to fall apart before the transaction. But now that the transaction has occurred, this is your most vulnerable point is right here. What is going to occur with the employees? So let's talk about this for a moment. Things you need to be thinking about. First of all, one of the things that I see frequently that come up is during an asset sale. You have to understand that for an asset sale, you are not buying the actual entity, the business entity itself. You are not buying the corporation or the LLC. You are buying all of the assets that are inside that company. So think of that company just like a cardboard box. That's all it is. You can even buy the name of it if you want to, just without corporation, Inc., LLC, whatever it is. You can buy all of that stuff, but you don't get the company itself when we're doing an asset sale. And an asset sale is the most common transition for buying and selling a business. So this is what I'm talking about. So think about all the equipment, all the assets, all the operations, all the people, everything else that make that business run are just things inside this box. And so during an asset sale, what you do is the buyer comes along with their own box. They get their own LLC, their own corporation. So they've got their own cardboard box over here. We take all the stuff here and we transport it into this box. That's an asset sale. Here's what happens with the employees. There will be a part of the asset purchase agreement, most likely. Our asset purchase agreement has this, and I'm assuming many do across the country. There will be a part of that asset purchase agreement that addresses what happens to the employees. And what has to happen, I get buyers and sellers who get upset by this all the time. Your employees have to be fired by this company so that they can be hired by this company. You are not terminating the employees from their employment. We are transferring their employment, but they have to be let go from this company. Otherwise, if that doesn't occur, the seller's company, the seller who's retiring, who's walking away from this business, not going to have anything more to do with it. If that termination does not take place, that company is still responsible for payroll, benefits, everything else, not the new company. So that's one plan that you have to think about when you are, especially if you're involved in an asset sale. Now, if it's a stock sale, if it's purchasing the membership units of an LLC, not such a big deal. But if it's an asset sale, you have to consider that. That technically, I mean, the employees won't know any different. Okay. So it's not worth really making a big deal out of it. But between buyer and seller, it tends to be a little bit of a big deal. Other things that come up, you have to think about, will pay rates stay the same? Will job shifts stay the same? You need to be thinking about when are we going to tell the employees of the company? You don't want it too early so that employees start blabbing about it out in public because you may not want this to be public yet. You don't want to tell them too late. Is it the right thing to do? The first day they show up after the transition, you say, surprise, here's a new owner, or even worse, you don't even show up, the new owner does. So you have to think about these things. The employees are going to have to go through a transition process mentally and emotionally as well, just like you did in the buying and selling process. How much processing time are you going to allow the employees to have to get through that? You have to have that plan. Will you be adopting the employee handbook that the seller had? Will you be creating your own? You have to be prepared to talk about these kinds of things that will happen after the transition. Will you be offering any kind of incentives to try to get the employees to stay, since they know how to run the business, they know the clients, and all those kinds of things? This is a very vulnerable point in the business to make sure the business continues to be successful after the transaction. So think long and hard about what the employee transition plan is going to be. I've run out of time. I spent too much time on that other topic. So this is something that I feel very strongly about, making sure the employees are taken care of in the transition. Feel free to reach out to me, phone and email, if I'm pointing it the right direction on my screen here. I would love to talk with you more about other considerations for that employee transition plan. All right, got to stop there. So, with that, everyone, have a great day.